Fort Knox is one of the most secure places on Earth. At least that's what we've always been told. But right now, questions are swirling, not just about what's inside Fort Knox, but whether there's anything inside at all. As of June 2025, the official claim is that Fort Knox holds over 147 million troy ounces of gold. At today's gold price, hovering near $30,320 an ounce, that's nearly $500 billion in bullion. But here's the catch. No full public audit has been done since 1953. And now, President Donald Trump says he's about to change that. Aboard Air Force One, Trump gave a cryptic interview that set off a firestorm. He said, quote, "We're going to audit Fort Knox. We're going to make sure the gold is there, because maybe it's not." That wasn't a joke. He doubled down. And sources close to the administration now claim that not only will the audit happen, it may even be live-streamed. With Elon Musk reportedly involved in the transparency campaign, this could be the most dramatic moment in U.S. monetary history. But why now? And what happens if Fort Knox really is empty? Let's break this down. Fort Knox, located in Kentucky, has long been shrouded in secrecy. Officially, it was built in 1936 and has stored everything from wartime gold to the Magna Carta. The building itself is protected by layers of steel-reinforced concrete, blast-proof doors, and a military perimeter. But no security system, no matter how impressive, can hide the fact that we haven't seen the gold in over 70 years. In 1974, a small group of reporters and congressmen were allowed a quick walkthrough of a few chambers. They were shown stacks of gold and then ushered out. No weighing, no documentation, no video footage. Just a quick glance. Since then, nothing. This blackout has fueled speculation for decades. Some believe the gold was secretly sold off to prop up foreign governments or bail out global banks during financial crises. Others think it was leased to private corporations in shady off-the-books deals. And a more extreme theory claims it was moved offshore entirely, to Switzerland or even the Vatican, to prevent any future U.S. administration from accessing it during a currency reset. Let that sink in. One of the most iconic symbols of American monetary power, a fortress supposedly filled with hundreds of billions in gold, has gone unverified for generations. In an age of endless transparency theater, Fort Knox remains completely in the dark. And now in 2025, with the US dollar under massive pressure and global gold reserves being repatriated by countries like Germany, Turkey, and China, the truth about Fort Knox matters more than ever. Let's do the math. If the gold is there, its value at current prices would give the US a major edge in a monetary reset. $3,320 per ounce times 147 million ounces equals $487 billion. That's nearly half of the Fed's entire balance sheet. But if the vault is empty, or worse, filled with gold-plated tungsten, as some whistleblowers have claimed, the credibility of the U.S. financial system could collapse overnight. Markets would panic. The dollar could nosedive. Gold could surge to $5,000, $10,000, or more. Not because of demand, but because of total loss of trust. And in that chaos, foreign governments holding U.S. debt might decide to dump it, triggering a global cascade of monetary fallout. This is why Trump's announcement isn't just political theater, it's a potential powder keg. Here's where it gets even stranger. In 2011, Ron Paul, then congressman, called for a full audit of Fort Knox. His requests were denied. But FOIA documents later revealed internal memos discussing potential liabilities if the public were to discover discrepancies in the vault's contents. One memo even discussed using outdated inventory practices to satisfy casual inquiries without exposing vulnerabilities. That's a quote. And yet somehow this story has stayed beneath the surface. The mainstream media rarely touches it. But now it's going viral online because the world has changed. The public no longer trusts institutions. We've seen too many rigged systems, from quantitative easing to pandemic bailouts, and people want answers. That's why this Fort Knox story is exploding, not just because of what might be missing, but because of what it says about our entire financial system. If Fort Knox is empty, it means we've been living in a fiat illusion, propped up by nothing but belief. But if it's full and Trump proves it, that could restore confidence and even position the U.S. to return to a gold standard. Either way, this story is going to reshape everything. And here's one more twist. Insiders claim the Trump team may time the audit reveal to coincide with the Federal Reserve's next rate decision. If that happens, it could send shockwaves through global markets, especially if any anomalies are discovered. And even if gold is there, the audit may reveal discrepancies in purity, ownership claims, or double-book reserves. If any of that comes to light, confidence in both Wall Street and Washington could crater. That's the real danger. So what's really behind those steel doors? A vault of gold that reaffirms American strength? Or a dark secret that could unravel the biggest monetary lie ever told? We'll find out soon. And when we do, the ripple effect won't just hit Washington. It'll hit every savings account, investment portfolio, and digital dollar in the world. If you're not already preparing, now is the time to understand how deep this goes and how fast it can all change. Subscribe to Wealth Signal now. We're not just reporting the headlines. We're exposing the truth they're too afraid to tell you. But here's the truth most people are missing. This isn't just about gold bars. It's about trust. It's about the symbolic heart of American economic power. Fort Knox was designed to represent impenetrable strength, a fortress of stability in a world of chaos. If the vault is empty, that illusion crumbles. And if the illusion crumbles, the consequences won't stop at the U.S. border. Imagine how global financial institutions would react. The IMF, the World Bank, central banks around the world all operate on a carefully constructed trust network. Pull one thread too hard and the whole system unravels. Nations like China and Russia have already been quietly accumulating gold, reducing their dollar exposure and preparing for a multipolar reserve currency future. If the U.S. is exposed as having no true reserve backing, the dollar's dominance could fade far faster than anyone predicted. Now, here's where it gets personal. Your money sitting in a bank, stored in a 401k, held in digital apps, is all tied to this illusion. If Fort Knox is proven to be a facade, the ripple effect will reach your doorstep. It will show up in inflation, in stock market volatility, in the sudden realization that your dollar doesn't stretch quite like it used to. And let's not forget the political stakes. If Trump's audit exposes even partial fraud, it will trigger one of the most aggressive blame games in modern history. Politicians, Treasury officials, former presidents, no one will be safe from scrutiny. And with 2026 elections on the horizon, it could reshape the political landscape for years to come. So yes, Fort Knox matters, not because we need to touch the gold, but because the story we've been told, the myth of American financial strength, hinges on what's really behind those vault doors. And the moment that door opens, everything could change. And here's where it gets even more disturbing. Some financial historians and whistleblowers have long argued that the disappearance of gold from Fort Knox may have started decades ago, under both Republican and Democratic administrations. They point to a troubling lack of transparency, suspicious patterns of movement in government records, and a series of policy decisions that slowly eroded gold-backed confidence. If the gold is missing, then who has it now? Some theories point to foreign central banks. Others suggest it may have been covertly sold off to prop up failing financial systems during moments of global crisis. This lack of audit trails and accountability strikes at the core of America's financial credibility. If Fort Knox is empty, or even if it simply contains far less gold than reported, it could trigger a complete loss of confidence in U.S. financial leadership, both at home and abroad. Markets would panic, international reserves could shift away from the dollar, and a global economic realignment might be set into motion. The real question now isn't just whether the gold is there. It's whether Americans are ready for the truth, and what happens next when that truth is revealed. Because once the vault is open, there's no closing it again. Subscribe to Wealth Signal now, because when the gold dust settles, you'll want to be on the right side of history.